Well. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Oh my gosh, it's post debate meltdown analysis. Wow. Wow. I guess I should have expected exactly what was going to happen, right? And
Yeah.
that's that, I said last night, and I still hold fast to this. This is how I view the debate. Okay. Imagine a scale, and you have at the top you have A, and at the bottom you have F. You have all the
Hmm.
grades in between. Kamala Harris is like, for most of the debate, she's just like flatlined around the C level. And then
Oh
she has a
yeah.
couple times where she'll like go up to B and maybe down to D, right? She kind of vacillates up and down a little bit from that
Right.
range.
But all
And then
mid-tier
right.
performance, nothing
Good. Yeah.
spectacular.
Right. And then you have Trump here. And Trump is like, he's not steady at C. He keeps ping-ponging between B and D. Like he's all over the place. Sometimes he gets up to A, sometimes he gets down to F. I think he did more below the C probably than above the C, but he's still like all over the fucking place. And I was watching this and I'm like, okay, I don't think either of them did particularly well. It's kind of almost exactly the performance I expected from both of them. The very, Trump kind of uncontrollable, saying vague stuff, meandering, being angry, a lot of bluster. Kamala giving a lot of like vague platitudes, not really giving specific policies, trying to annoy, needle Trump. Is basically exactly what I expected. It was very interesting to see now the fallout is a lot of people saying, "Oh my God, Kamala Harris is debate Jesus."
My
Okay.
God.
She descended from the heavens in a pillowy cloud of, debate power, and she just pimp slapped Donald Trump into a and I'm like, what are you? I'm just sitting here like, what the fuck debate did these people watch? It's very interesting. And then I was
Look,
saying,
hold on a
okay,
second. How is this not a cope? Because they keep saying like a lot of the narrative that's developed around
mhm,
the right side is that it was like a 3v1 debate. And the lefties keep coming in and saying, cope, you guys are coping. But how
right.
is this not a cope? That she's like, debate Jesus. Come on,
Well,
let's get, what is that all about?
it is a weird, I don't know,
Debate Jesus?
right.
What?
It is a weird cope. It is fascinating. But so I'm like, okay, that's what like that's like the very, very left, very pro Kamala side saying. So I'm like, what are the conservatives saying, right? I'm curious what they're saying. So I'm watching them and I'm watching like what a lot of people on the right are saying. It's fascinating because it seems like almost all of them thought that Donald Trump also lost. And I was like,
Really?
okay. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, that's interesting. Not unexpected, but interesting. And there's a lot of anger towards the moderators, which, I understand because you talk about it was a 3v1 and the moderators obviously seem to be much more biased towards Kamala, which is true. And it's you have kind of the JD Vance weird gaslight phenomenon happen again. That the left has manufactured another very effective political way to frame it where they say, "Oh, if you're complaining about the moderators, if you're complaining about the refs, that means you're losing." And I'm like,
Right.
"Okay. Like that's a good point and it's kind of true, but it doesn't dissuade from the fact that they were biased towards Kamala. So it kind of just gets the right, like more riled up and more angry and feeling more kind of like gaslit by the whole experience.
What if the refs are openly cheating, but you're
Mm-hmm.
not complaining? What is the takeaway from that?
Well, there can be two. Either A, if you're winning, it's like, oh my God, you're so badass that even though the ref's cheating, you won. Or B, you look like very cucked because you're just hanging your head in silence as the refs walk all over you. So it's kind of like a no-win scenario.
No. Look, if you're on the winning side and the
Right.
refs are cheating, the
Oh,
refs
and
are
to help
obviously
you.
cheating in your favor.
Right.
Yeah,
Oh, I see what you're
exactly.
saying.
So
Yes,
you're
right.
just
Yes.
ignoring it. You're
Right.
completely ignoring it because they're like on your side.
Right.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
that's what I think is going on. Obviously, they're like, "Oh, we don't want to say the refs were cheating in our favor." And
Well,
look, I said this
obviously, yeah.
before the stream began. It's interesting because all of Kamala's lies are like media sanctioned lies because these are lies that were concocted by the media. So obviously they're not going to fact check themselves. Like the most egregious one is the obviously the bloodbath comment, which
Mm.
if you listen to the media narrative on the bloodbath comment, you would think that Trump at a rally said if he loses his supporters are going to go out and kill people in the streets. That's what you
Right.
would think that he actually said. That's not what he said. He was talking about an economic bloodbath. He was talking about a bloodbath of manufacturing jobs that we
Hmm.
would lose. So
Right.
they completely spun it in a in a disingenuous, fraudulent direction. Now they're not going to step in and say, "Oh, Kamala, you got the bloodbath comment wrong," because they
Mm.
came up with it. She's literally repeating their lies.
Right.
Like, how is
Right.
that not a structural disadvantage? And that
It
look,
is.
this isn't a cope. Like, I don't care if Trump loses. Like, I literally do not care if Kamala Harris is president for 4 years. Okay, we're
You might even
judging
vote for
based on.
her. So,
Yes,
yeah.
look, I might even vote for the we're looking at it, just trying to be objective and looking at, is this a fair game that they're playing, right? Is
Hmm.
this a fair democratic election? And I mean, the more the media is in the bag for the left, I kind of lean towards, nah, not really. This is, and we talked a little bit before. I retweeted Brianna Wu because Brianna Wu had this tweet where she was saying, basically, oh, Trump's a liar and the media, everyone complaining about the media being biased is
Hmm.
just doesn't understand the high ethics of the media. And I mean, like, really? Really? You think
Hmm.
these fact checkers are operating under the high journalistic ethical standards here when they concoct a story that completely takes Trump out of context and makes it seem like his supporters are going to go murder people in the streets and
Right.
run that story for like 2 weeks? You think that's high ethical journalistic standards? Give me
No,
a
probably
break.
not. No. Yeah.
And then not only that, they want to point to Trump and go, "Oh yeah, Trump is the most divisive person ever." What the fuck? Like, he says the most innocuous thing, right? He's at some factory and he casually uses the word bloodbath of jobs, and they spin it into there's going to be murderous militias
Right.
in the street. Like, how is he the divisive one?
Well, in that context, obviously he's not when you just said that
Yes,
comment.
look, obviously, Trump has done divisive things. If they look, the thing is, they're like, oh my God, he said this Mexicans are rapist things like 10 years ago now.
Right.
Like, we gotta get, like, it's getting kind of old. We keep going back to that old well. We
Hmm.
gotta have something new. What has he said new recently
He
that
said they're going to
is,
eat your pets, Adam. Weren't you listening last night?
look,
They're
even
coming
that.
for your dogs and cats.
Look, I've not seen a lot of the other analysis. I guarantee you, our analysis on that was like 1,000 times better. Just
Hmm.
pointing out the like establishment, anti-establishment bent on that between the two of them. Nobody else talked about that. How Trump, Trump had an anti-establishment bent on that. That was perfectly
Right.
logically coherent. That anyone who's just an establishment shill is going to go over their head. Now, look, Sitch and I are often called establishment shills because we don't think every single institution is rotten to the core, and we don't buy into a lot of these, like, I would call conspiracies that float around.
Hmm.
So, but there
Well,
are people that, they look at the institution of journalism and they think, oh my God, the high ethical standards, when
right.
that institution obviously is a mixed bag.
Yeah. Well, regarding the anti-establishment establishment thing, there's a good point. I don't know if Frank Luntz says it in this clip that we were going to watch at some point, or someone else I heard say it, which is that with like the eating pets thing, the problem, and this is what I think part of Trump's problem is, and someone brought this up. They said like Trump's been doing a lot of rallies. He kind of the person that came to that performance tonight last night was like like Republican campaign rally Trump, who is speaking in a way and referencing things that like people
His
who show up to
supporters know.
rallies
Yeah,
might know, but like an independent voter or someone who's not super tapped in might not know. And so with the eating pets thing, it's like, okay, if you know the story, like you can kind of understand what the fuck he's talking about. But how many people don't know that story or really follow that story? And I think that's a good point because the
it
whole
is.
thing is that he should be trying to win over the undecided voters. the undecided voters who are probably less tapped into things. So when he says, and I think it's also why the moderators like fact checking him is actually like triple powerful against him, is because they're going to be seen as like authoritative sources from the undecided voters and things like that.
Oh
So when
yeah.
they hear him say these things about eating pets, and they're like, "What the fuck is he talking about?" Because they don't know the story or what's being referenced, and then the moderator says like, "That's bullshit." Like it's gonna, and then his response once they say it's bullshit is a really bad response. He's like, oh, well, I heard someone say it on the TV. It's like, okay, well, I mean, what does that mean?
No,
So
that you're exactly right. The media has massive control over the undecided voters. And the undecided voters, I do think, have an institutional bias. So
yes,
they are more likely to believe even the institution of journalism is still has high ethical standards and whatnot.
hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I think Trump's biggest benefit for the undecided voters is they probably don't watch or pay attention to the debates that much. So
Yeah. Yeah. And I honestly, as much as they want to frame Trump as the dangerous choice, I do think Trump is the more conservative choice in the minds of most people because he was president for 4 years. We got along just fine. The country didn't blow up.
the
And
only
Kamala,
hmm
who knows? It's a
I,
it's a wild card.
the chat is like broken or something.
Oh, it is?
Like I can't even type when I type in it. It says error.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know. Weird. But oh yeah, okay. We'll try to get that fixed. But thank you for letting me know. Um. So but kind of like listening to people's comments on this, and I was like, okay, so I'm thinking, is everyone saying that Kamala is like did so amazing, so much better than Trump? Is it all just like cope, or is there something a little bit more going on there? And actually, I think there is something more. I think part of it is just cope, obviously, and part of it is partisanship. But I think there is something more that's going on there because that's why I'm saying like even the people on the right thought Trump did poorly. And I don't know if you're distracted trying to fix the
I
chat,
am
but
distracted,
right.
but keep talking.
Right.
I guess maybe we'll have to, I don't know what to do. Oh, look, someone got through. You guys broke YouTube. Sorry,
Yeah, and they can
guys.
see I typed in test and it popped up too. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Try refreshing everybody, I guess. Oh no, error again. Maybe it's YouTube itself
Yeah, it's
that's
probably a
broken.
YouTube mistake.
Yeah, I don't
It's
know.
nothing on our end.
Yeah. So
But
I'm curious if
let's
other people's live chats are broken as well.
let's keep let's make the replay good and just keep talking about nobody cares
Okay,
about the chat.
I know. Okay, but anyway, I just want to say off before I end on the chat thing. I just popped open another live stream, and their chat wasn't working either. So obviously, this is
Okay,
a
yeah, it's a YouTube thing.
YouTube wide issue. So anyway, sorry if you can't get on the chat, but so the way I thought to think about this is you say, okay, what did Kamala need to accomplish in this debate, and what did Trump need to accomplish in this debate?
Right.
And so this is my thought is that what Kamala wants to accomplish in the debate is showing that Trump is crazy, that Trump is unhinged, that he's a bad person, that he's a racist and a bully, and just like a lot of like character attack sort of issues. That's kind of what she wants, right? She wants to frame him as this stupid, out of control retard,
Yep.
essentially, like Lenny, with the bunny. And you say, okay, from the Democrats' perspective, from the Kamala supporters' perspective, did she accomplish those goals? Yes, she did. You have, Trump talking about the pets, Trump saying, if I bring up my notes from last night, saying a bunch of
His
other things.
crowd size
Yeah, the crowd size.
again.
Yes, right. Bring up the crowd size. She was able to bait him on a bunch of different topics, that he would waste time talking about. Oh, and then
God,
also another point.
he was so easily baited on your supporters are bored at your rallies. Oh my
Yes,
God, he was visibly distraught. How
yes.
dare you?
Right, right. And then also from the things that she wanted to accomplish, like that were in like directed towards her, is she wanted to make herself look presidential. She wanted to make herself kind of skate by on being vague and not really giving a lot of clear policies, right? Because that's kind of like her weakness at the moment. And she was able to do that. She was able to completely do that. And I think that's why her supporters are looking at her as like the big win. And then you say, okay, what did Trump need to accomplish going to this debate? Well, he needs to accomplish that Kamala is stupid, that she doesn't know what she's talking about, that she doesn't really have a lot of good policy or any policy ideas. He needed to tie her into the Biden administration in the last 4 years and say everything that's going wrong with immigration, everything that's going wrong with the economy, these are all Kamala's faults, right? Did Trump accomplish that set of goals? No,
No, he
he
didn't. He
didn't.
failed
He
utterly.
totally
Yeah.
failed, right? And I think that's part of why people are perceiving it the way that they are, and I understand it because you know Kamala was able to bait Trump either intentionally or just because Trump is Trump into focusing on not any of those issues, right? He was focusing a lot on character attacks against Kamala. He was focusing a lot on vague things. Like one of the biggest things, and I was really surprised to hear this. He did an interview with Sean Hannity after the debate, and he specifically pointed out how he saved it was a good line, but you remember the line he said at the end in his closing statement, the line about like, Kamala's had 4 years to fix these problems. She keeps saying she has all these plans, she has all these wonderful plans. Why isn't she implementing these plans? It's because she can't, she sucks, blah, 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 blah. That was a good line. And and when Trump was talking to Sean Hannity, he talks about how he intentionally kept that line for the end. And I was like, that's a huge fuck up right there. That he not only did he keep it for the end, but he thought that was a good idea.
Oh, it's a
Because
horrible idea.
yeah, no, because it's people aren't like most people aren't going to watch the entire debate and think of it like a book with a punchy ending. They're going to just watch these like kind of like little clips. And like you need to just kind of keep hammering in the point again, again, again. Every question, you want to hammer the point in. Every question, Donald Trump should have been like, "You've had 4 years to do this, you haven't done it. You've had 4 years to do this, you haven't done that." And it's very interesting to me that he intentionally didn't do that. So I think that was a massive, massive fuck up from his end. I don't think he focused on the economy and inflation really very much at all. He didn't really. He
Yeah, he
focused on
should have
immigration a lot,
hammered
obviously,
that.
but
He should have hammered
yeah,
the economy. The economy
he,
is even, I mean, it's neck and neck between the economy and inflation
uh-huh.
or
And
immigration.
immigration.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Immigration and inflation. Those are the big things people are worried
Right.
about.
But, and I think that the biggest thing that he really ceded ground to Kamala is that, for the entire time that Kamala entered the race, the number one complaint against her that we've heard is, what are her policies? What are her policies? What are her policies? Right.
Yep.
And this would have been like the time to showcase that for
That
Trump to
she
be
doesn't
like,
have any policies. Yeah.
right. Now, technically, Trump doesn't really have that many policies either, but I wonder if he could kind of skate by because he was already president. So people give it a little bit of a pass because they're like, well, he did something when he was president, right? So he really should have just been hammering the fact that she doesn't really have ideas. And then when she would throw out, because she had like I think three policies, like kind of general policies she talked about. And when she throw it out there, they were just kind of like left unchallenged. She never came back to it. He should have been challenging her to actually explain any of this stuff in any capacity whatsoever. And he didn't do any of that. And so I think this is why, even from the right, there's a perception that Trump lost, is because he didn't really accomplish any of the goals that he needed to accomplish in this debate.
Yeah, that's a great point. That is a great point. It's funny that they're not out there doing the same thing the left is doing, saying, "Oh my God, Trump is debate Jesus." They're like, "Oh, a little demoralized."
Yeah, they're like the moderators were cheating. It was unfair, blah, 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 blah.
Well, that part's true, just independent of
No, I understand
the
that, but
outcome.
but it is interesting that there is an acknowledgement that Trump, didn't do well in in the debate. I mean, I
It
don't
is
think Kamala
infuri
did well either, but she did accomplish what she set out to accomplish.
Yeah. It
And
is
also,
infuriating
oh,
that there is so
mhm,
much like undetected cheating going on. That just gets
right.
under people's skin. The
Hmm.
unfairness of it. Oh, so triggering.
Well, that's true. And then another thing is that, and we talked about this a little bit last night, is that the and it's funny because the Republicans kind of did this again. That it worked with Biden, I guess, but they kind of backfired with Kamala was that the expectations for Kamala were so low that
Yeah.
she didn't have to perform that well to like to expect, to surpass those expectations. And I think it's another reason part of it's very interesting. A lot of people they perceive that both side, whatever side they're on, they perceive that the other side is filled with knowing liars. Okay. Say,
Yep.
oh, like if you're on the left, you're like, everyone on the right knows that Donald Trump is a stupid, unhinged maniac, and they're all lying when they say otherwise. And everyone on the right says, oh, everyone on the left knows that Kamala Harris is a vapid, dumb retard who just says platitudes and doesn't have any policies, right? And they're lying when they say otherwise. And that's not really true.
Nope.
Both
Not true
sides
at
are kind
all.
of like gaslighting themselves into buying their own hype. And
Yep.
it's funny and it's kind of interesting because, and this is why the Kamala Harris thing is important, is that I think the right kind of gaslit themselves to some extent into Kamala being like 10 IQ points.
Yep. Yeah. They
It's
totally did.
right, which was never, it was never the case. Like, no, she was someone who was awkward and nervous and she was too afraid to like have positions that were not workshopped and all this stuff. But as long as you prepare enough like general statements, you can perform moderately well. And basically, my exact prediction about the debate is exactly what happened in terms of how both sides performed. And I think because the right sort of like gaslit themselves or hype themselves into this so much of this frenzy of Kamala being so stupid that when she just wasn't that level of stupidity, they're like, oh, and that's kind of what made them like demoralized the next morning or that night.
Yeah. Well, Kamala is her and her team are analyzing that debate. They're going to work on improving her game. And I've said this before, it's a completely different situation with Trump because
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure Trump can sit down with a bunch of smart people and look at his debate performance and take feedback from those people and improve if they
Mm-hmm.
were to do another debate. But I think Kamala probably can, right?
I don't remember because I know in 2020, I don't remember which debate it was. There's a debate where Trump kept like interrupting Biden and it looked
Yeah.
really bad for Trump. And I don't remember if that was like an early debate and he like fixed it or not. So, but yeah, I mean, my intuition is generally like, yes, it's harder for Trump to change course. Kamala seems to be the empty vessel who's much more willing to change course. So they have different problems. Trump's problem is like they both their problems are themselves, but in different ways. Trump's problem is that I feel like he does have the skill and the ability to correct, but his ego won't let him maybe correct. He won't really
Yeah, I
like
agree.
take criticism. Where Kamala, she's totally willing, I think, to just kind of let someone tell her what to do, but she just doesn't have a good she doesn't have a good vibe. I don't think she's ever had a good vibe. She comes off kind of very, weak, meek, nervous, stumbly sort of individual in the conversation.
Can she course correct for that though? That's the question.
I
Like,
don't think she can. Not this
yeah,
short a time span.
is it something that's just innate? I mean, she has stopped the jackhammer laugh.
That is
Like you
true.
don't hear the that laugh is just
Hmm.
like piercing.
It's true. I mean, that is a good point. She did stop that. Though, so one of the things that I found very interesting about the debate last night was Kamala's doing all these like faces. This
Oh
was like
yeah,
one,
yeah, yeah.
this was like one of the most prominent parts of the debate to me is whenever Trump is talking, Kamala's making all these like very to me obviously performative fake faces. Like you knew that she studied these faces in a mirror for like 2 weeks before this debate. And I was curious to see how people would react to these faces. I react to them very poorly. I mean, I also have a bias towards things that to me seem like extra performative, like rub me the extra wrong way. But I was curious how everyone else would kind of react to it. And the curious thing is, like, all today I've been looking and watching all sorts of people on the left and the right and the center sort of give their breakdown on the debate. And I noticed the only people that were really bringing up the faces at all were like the deep left, like the deep, like slurping up the Kamala like propaganda
Oh, they loved
people,
it, huh?
right? Yes, they fucking love the faces. Oh my God, they were whacking and slacking to the faces, right? Which is what
Wow.
I expected. But the interesting thing to me is that when I looked at most people, not everyone, but when I looked at most people who were more, even the people that were pro Kamala, but were more towards the center, and the people that were, more towards the right, most of them didn't even bring up the faces at all. They didn't even talk about them,
Right. So
which
there
is
was no downside to it then.
I don't know. It's fascinating that they didn't perceive the faces, which to me was one of her biggest fuck ups,
Yeah,
was these like
we
ridiculous faces.
we did not like the faces at all.
Mm-mm.
But
No.
look, I think a lot of people also probably just listen. They don't
Mm.
watch the debate. They put it on their phone and they listen while they're working out or jogging or cleaning the house or doing the dishes.
Oh, I didn't think about the
And
phone thing. That's interesting.
they're not going to get those faces. Yeah, look,
Right.
we constantly, I mean, we do a show, but I mean, we're
Right.
conscious of the fact probably 20% of our audience actually watches the picture.
Right. But then, we do a long form stream. It's a little bit different than like a debate. But, the phone thing, that's an interesting point. Is because, yeah, like when you're looking at a phone, you're looking at this tiny picture. So it's not so like, I was watching it on like a big, gigantic screen. So Kamala's like silly faces were like so apparent to me. It was like impossible
Right.
to turn away from them, even though I was like typing a bunch of notes, while I'm watching this. But I don't know. I think part of what Kamala was trying to accomplish in that debate was the same thing she's been trying to accomplish for her entire campaign, which is I need to get a bunch of energy going and a bunch of positive energy going on like the internet left. And it's kind of interesting. People were saying Trump was too online in this debate, which I agree with. But I feel like all the Kamala faces were just online. They were just all so fucking online because it's just for all the Kamala brat people to post excitedly about them. But I don't know. Maybe there was no downside to it because I didn't really hear anyone on the middle or right even mention it at all, let alone complain about it or say it's good or bad.
Well, good. We didn't look, we streamed right after the debate, so we didn't absorb any of the
The commentary,
what is
yeah.
the official narrative going to be about this.
Hmm.
So obviously, we came to the same conclusion as a lot of people that the moderators were biased, the media was completely biased. So, but we didn't. We came to that conclusion on our own. We weren't swayed by other people saying that narrative. So,
Hmm.
but and I guess we got the narrative wrong about the faces because of the only one it really affected was the far left, and they loved it. But
Right.
obviously we were right in that we said they would love it. They would
Yeah.
totally. But we thought there would be some downside to it, which evidently there wasn't.
Hmm.
So I don't know why you sent me this New York Times tweet about attacks and issues, how Harris Trump debate played out, minutes of speaking time. I noticed this is another common narrative on the left.
Hmm.
So the right is saying, look, the moderators were bad, they cheated. And a lot of the retort from the left is, but Trump spoke for so much longer. Like, how were they cheating? I mean,
Right.
weren't they cheating in favor of Trump?
Hmm.
They let him speak all of this time. Well,
Well,
yeah, he spoke more because they kept asking him pointed questions like, how long has it been since you beat your wife?
I think it was that. It was also, one of the things that the moderators were not biased on was that Trump was very good at like cutting the moderators off and making sure that he got the last word every time. And the one
Oh,
time
yeah.
Kama tried to do that, the moderators took a shit on her and steamrolled her. I'm assuming the fact that he was doing that is what led to all this additional time. And it's interesting because if you look at this tweet, you can see not only did Trump speak more, but he also attacked Kamala significantly less, which is kind of fascinating too.
Right.
So she was attacking him, 4 minutes and 20 seconds, 25 seconds more.
Well, they
It would be
need a
interesting
little
if
bar
like there
for
was,
Biden attacks.
oh, maybe, but it'd be interesting if on that thing was like time spent defending yourself, right? Because I wonder if I mean, assuming Trump's
Oh,
was like
that
way
would be
higher, but
good. Yeah.
yeah.
That's like all the other time there.
Hmm. And then you can see it's interesting on this one. Kamala talked a lot more about the economy than Trump did, which is
Yes.
interesting. Let's see. Trump
Abortion.
talked a lot more about immigration, obviously, right? He brought. I actually feel like that number's. I feel like that number has to be wrong. I feel like he literally talked about immigration every single fucking answer. He like brought it back to immigration, right? That
Yeah.
was my feeling about it. So
Interesting breakdown, though.
no, but it is an interesting breakdown. Let's see. Kamala's performance was crafted for the internet. Yeah, I think it definitely was crafted for the internet. It was a lot of bite-sizable clips. That's another thing I think will influence people is that the media is gonna like play a bunch of clips and they'll play like the choicest clips. And here's, it's interesting. I was listening to everyone's kind of commentary. I'm wondering, like, I was doing the sort of Principal Skinner thing, like, am I the one that's wrong here, or is it the children? And I'm like, maybe I just like misunderstood something about the debate. But here's why I feel kind of confident in my, or I'd say pretty confident in our sort of interpretation of the debate. All the moments I said, which were the strong moments for Kamala, are the same strong moments all the Kamala people are playing the exact clips of. And all the moments I said were the weak moments of the Trump would get into trouble with are all the same weak moments that all the Kamala people are playing. So it shows that I was completely correct at identifying like all the correct points that they were going to emphasize on both sides.
Were the clips of him running from the black commentary?
It was the black thing. It was the concept of a plan thing, which I said was going to be, that's going to be
Oh
like a
yeah.
big meme. And then with Kamala, it was, whenever she talked about abortion and say like, you gotta, how dare you get your hands off the woman's body, and then there was, I forgot what it was. There was another Kamala moment. Oh, it was the one that I said was her best moment, which everyone was pointing to, which is the, 81 million people fired you. And he's having trouble like, coming to terms with that.
Right. Okay, so you want to watch this?
Yeah.
Frank Luntz.
Yeah, let's watch it. So Frank Luntz is an interesting dude. He used to be a very, very like, well, I don't know his politics were, but he was basically a, what would you call him?
He's a pollster for the Republican Party.
But it's more
Well,
than a
he's
pollster.
also, yeah, because he works on language. He does focus groups of voters, and he like A/B tests different language phrases to figure out which one is going to be more effective with voters. Like he rebranded. The famous one is the death tax. Like he rebranded the estate tax to the death tax to give it this negative valence that Republicans could beat and destroy the estate tax. He also did a positive one where he turned gambling into gaming, which Vegas loves him for, because he's like, gambling sounds like seedy. That's something you do in a back alley. But gaming is something you take the family to do, right?
Right.
Never mind the fact that dad's, gambled away the college fund, right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It was just gaming, kids. So, but yeah, that's like his thing. So I don't know if this is in the same realm, if he's still doing this kind of stuff.
Well, no. So yeah, so he used to do a lot of this sort of like political consultant work where he would come up with like messaging, and he was doing it for, he's a registered Republican. He's been doing it for Republicans, I think, for most of his life. He's kind of switched over the last 8 to 10 years, I think, to be more like kind of moderate-y. And now he just kind of does, like general polling and stuff. So I think listening to him, he always kind of has like interesting takes, in my opinion. And he's more, it's interesting. He's like a policy person. He's like a very, very, very policy oriented person. So it's interesting to see, because I thought this debate, and as I said last night, this debate was like so lax on policy on either side, to kind of see how he would perceive this debate.
Cool.
Joining us right now is political strategist and pollster Frank Luntz. Frank, want to get your reaction to what you saw last night. I followed you on Twitter, and you said after this debate, the Harris campaign will have little reason to do another one. What do you mean?
Well, the fact is, it appears that Harris actually gave more details last night than Trump. It appears as though she was more presidential than Donald Trump, even though she's never been president. And it appears that Donald Trump is going to double down on his claim that people are eating their dogs and cats. I can't believe I'm saying that on CNBC. And I know that the people want me in your control room, want me to speak about the economy. But last night's debate, and I remember how I felt in 2020 watching Donald Trump time after time after time after time light into Joe Biden, alienating the people he was trying to win. The level of detail in last night's debate from Harris and from Trump on their economic policies was so slim that the public was left wanting. And as I'm following it, I'm being texted and emailed by people who watch your program and how disappointed they were in both candidates for not being explicit, in both candidates for not being articulate about exactly what they would do, particularly with inflation, particularly with economic concerns, but that Trump missed a golden opportunity to speak up and speak out about why we're in the situation we are now, and that, frankly, he lost the debate last night. Not that she won, but that he lost.
And that, to me, and I think it's a very excellent point, which is that this was Kamala's biggest weakness. Kamala's biggest weakness is, what the fuck does she believe in, right? We don't know, right? We don't know. Now, recently, she's put up some policies on her website, which now I believe are actually more, I mean, they're not like super detailed, and there's still a lot of like vague statements and general statements in there, but they're more of them than even on Trump's website. And this really should have been Trump's line of attack, is to just be like, this is a person who has an empty suit, have no policies. They're afraid to tell you what their policies are. You know, he could even made a joke about how like the only policies Kamala is like willing to talk about are the ones she steals from me, right? You know, there was a lot of ways to sort of to do this, and he just didn't focus really on that. I think he brought it up like once or twice, and the couple times he did bring it up, they were good lines. You know, I was going to give her a MAGA hat or something. But that should have really just been the continual drumbeat. Was she doesn't have any policies. The reason she doesn't have policies is because she's afraid. She's been vice president for 4 years. You know, why hasn't she done any of these things for 4 years? Blah, 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 blah. So he totally failed in this goal. But then Kamala totally succeeded in her goal, which is to make Trump look crazy, stupid, unhinged, which, you know, if you're not a Trump fan, that's all like, you know, she checked all those boxes off completely.
Yeah, look, the word that stands out for me is he says she looks more presidential, which I disagree with. But look, I could be in the minority. So, I mean, if the focus group or the poll or whatever says she looks presidential, I mean, I'm going to have to go with what the consensus is. So I went and looked at her. I haven't read her website. I read Trump's website, but I'll read this later today, so I'm more in the know. But yeah, interesting.
In terms of presidential, like I think Trump looked more presidential in terms of that he looked stronger. And I mean, Trump always looks stronger, but he also looked more, you know, easily like unfocused, like more ADD, and she looked more like, you know, calmer. Even though I thought she looked very nervous.
Yeah, she looked nervous. I don't know that's why I don't know if that's based on his own personal perspective or if it's based on polling.
Like, right.
Yeah.
Well,
if that's his own personal perspective, I mean, mine, I mean, well, who's to say?
Right. But once she got over her nervousness in the beginning.
Oh, she did well. Yeah.
People would perceive that as like, well, she's calm and in control. Right. And if that's what people want, and that's another thing too, is that I think so many people just really dislike Donald Trump.
Oh, they do. Yeah.
And I think they're kind of tired of it to some extent. The non-Trump fans are kind of tired of the whole Trump performance. So
yeah, look, and I don't know. A lot of people are like, why is Trump, why was he the Republican nominee again?
Because a lot of like the majority of Republicans love him. That's why.
Okay.
And let's talk about that then. What do you think the distinction is? You said not that she lost, or not that he lost, but that she won, or not that she won, but he lost. What do you mean by that?
that there was person after person who were on the shows after the debate, delivering talking points, being typically partisan, and saying that whoever they supported won the debate. But the fact is, his talking about, and I still can't believe I'm saying this on CNBC at 7 a.m., the idea that anywhere in America they're eating their pets, and he will never acknowledge, and he did not last night. The moderators gave him a chance repeatedly to acknowledge that he made a mistake, that he cannot do that. Well, let me tell you, Andrew.
That's just completely wrong, though. He looks super weak if he gives in to the moderators. Like this is not really.
Yeah, no, I agree. This is, I don't
terrible
agree with this
analysis.
at all,
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
It's funny. Our analysis was better. Like he did represent the perspective, and he made a logical argument that anyone can understand. He's saying the reports are wrong. The people are biased.
Well, yeah, but the problem, and this is always a problem with Trump speaks and Trump speak. So you have to do a little bit of decoding to get to like the idea. Because the way you phrased it last night, if he had
you said
like,
it was more articulate.
Right. Like if Trump could just fucking not be Trump for like 10 seconds, which I know is like literally impossible,
And
just speak
it.
like a normal fucking human being. I don't know why. He's literally incapable of speaking normally. And it's not like it's an old age thing. He's always had this very unusual way of speaking, and he just can't seem to ever not do that. Where he would just say very simply, like, well, very obviously the person, as you said, very obviously the person in charge of saying that your pets aren't getting eaten by immigrants is going to say that your pets aren't getting eaten by immigrants. He doesn't want to look bad. He doesn't want to lose his position, or his political power. So I'm going to trust the people on, the eyewitnesses, even though this could all be a completely bullshit story, and it probably is.
Well, and he even said at the end, we'll see what happens. He's
Right, but
like,
you shouldn't say that. Yeah, you should just say, I'm going to trust the eyewitness reports on the ground that are, saying this over like some bureaucrat.
Right. Yes.
So. The undecided voters are not voting over policy, they're voting over personality. And the idea that someone can be president for 4 years and not make a mistake and not acknowledge with humility that you don't get everything right is going to cost him this election. On the issues, Andrew, Trump had the advantage: inflation, immigration, and 2 issues that matter most. But instead, he prosecuted Harris with the same kind of anger and the contempt that he showed towards Joe Biden. It absolutely feeds his base. It will absolutely be cheered on by 43% of America. But the goal in any debate is to win that undecided, and he most certainly failed to do that last night.
We saw Elon Musk tweet out that he thought that the vice president exceeded expectations. Do you think that there?
Look at this.
Yeah, even Elon. See, as I said, the right sort of gaslit themselves into believing Kamala was like a literal retard. So then when she wasn't a literal retard, they're like, oh, I guess she's exceeded expectations.
All of Trump's calling her stupid went out the window.
Yes.
Yeah. And not only that, it was dumb to lower expectations like that.
Well, and maybe that's sort of like the key here is, both sides brand the other side as like a hyperbolic version of what they are. So, Trump, they say, okay, Kamala's like seemingly like she's afraid to sort of talk about stuff. She's kind of flip-flopping. She's, a flip-flopper. She's stupid, blah, blah, blah. Like they brand her certain things. And then in the debate, it's like, okay, will they play into that or not? Right. So she obviously didn't play into the stupid thing, really. She played into some other problems. Like I thought she seemed kind of like very platitude heavy, very vague, sort of just kind of like generic politician. But she didn't come off as like stupid. Where Trump, the Democrats labeled Trump as angry,
unhinged,
crazy, unhinged, unpresidential,
did
disrespectful.
That dog story play into the unhinged at all, Sitch?
Well, everything, yeah. Then everything he does plays directly into that. So even if you don't view him through that lens, he's still playing into all of he's giving enough, fuel for the fire that the other side is going to attack him, where she didn't really give fuel for that. So it's, I guess, an interesting thing to consider when you go into these debates.
It is. It totally is. Look, even the racist hyperbolic stereotype, the black thing can easily be spun into that.
Oh yeah. It's just funny because so fucked up that response. She gave a terrible response to that, but then Trump's answer was so much worse that no one cares. They just focus on Trump's bad answer. They don't focus on her, fumbling response afterwards.
Yeah. A lot of this analysis is ivory tower. We'll see what happens when the election hits. Like
Yes.
it could be, this is a thing. The society is really splitting into the ivory tower class and the rank and file.
Mhm.
And Trump does have a knack for speaking to the rank and file. So
Well,
he could win this.
it's no. I definitely think Trump is still in a strong position to win, stronger than Kamala. Because I think what will happen is, and I said this last night, Kamala will get a bump, like, in the immediate polls because of all the positive publicity about her, like, destroying Donald Trump. And it's going to be exactly like the same thing that happened when she, like, announced, and there's all this, like, kind of artificial, like, bumping of her. It's like she gets this bump, and then it just sort of waxes off because, like, there needs to be something real there underneath the artificialness at first.
Right.
And I don't think Kamala can just keep creating these sort of fake news cycles. Like, Trump had kind of floated after the debate, should he even do another debate? Because he's like, well, I already won this debate. Should I even do another one? Which I think is a huge mistake, because Kamala's team immediately said that, oh my God, she's so excited to do another debate. So if she's super excited to do a debate, he's not. It's going to look super fucking weak and pathetic.
Yeah, she's going to be goading him into doing another
Right.
debate because she suffered no downside. Yeah,
Exactly,
and also
exactly.
she's going to course correct. Her whole team
Well,
is
she'll
going to be like,
try, but
well, I mean, yeah. The thing is, the more you do this, the better you get.
it depends. It depends if her team has someone who can see through the bullshit on their side to say, like, oh, okay, everyone on the left was praising you for doing this stupid faces or doing whatever, but that, like, you shouldn't do that anymore next time. It's fucking dumb, right? Like, I don't know if there's that person on
That's
her
just,
side
look,
that can, like, see through it.
I mean, that's, if I don't want her simply to cater to me, I mean,
Right. If it works, sure.
yeah. I guess they would be saying, you know, is this working to pick up undecided voters?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where it really matters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I care more about policy. I'm not going to vote based on her stupid faces.
You're not going to get, there's going to be no policy. This is going to be the least policy driven election in probably our entire lives.
You know what? Fuck that.
It's true. It's true. It's so interesting. There's so little talk of policy. I've never seen anything like it.
When we're in such a mess economically, like we're on the
I know.
verge of a recession, inflation still is, well, look, inflation is down, but the price, everyone's dealing with at least a 20% increase in all the consumer goods that they buy regularly.
Right.
And that stubborn 20% increase doesn't seem to be going down.
Yep.
So everyone's bank account is 20% less than it was. Everyone's paycheck is 20% less than it was.
Yep.
And they want to vote based on policy. It's so crazy. I think that alone is advantage Trump, just because.
It should.
Yeah. Anyway.
I don't know if he can capitalize it on it, but it should.
Well, look, if neither party is going to give detailed policy prescriptions, they're going to say, well, Trump's economy was better when he was in office, and Kamala is part of the Kamala Biden administration, and the economy sucks.
Mm-hmm.
Trump keeps talking about lower interest rates too, lower interest rates.
Sense among undecideds, and by the way, not even just undecideds, was there anybody on the Trump side that you think switched after seeing this? No,
I don't believe that Trump lost a single vote last night. But that segment, that 5% in the key swing states, he gave them no reason to vote for him on economic issues, which is their number one priority. He went back again and again to immigration, but he did that ineffectively. You can't just beat up on your opponent. You have to have solutions. And Trump did as president. But the fact is, last night was a very poor debate performance for someone whose campaign has done quite well in articulating the difference between himself and Vice President Harris. The Trump campaign is succeeding in drawing a distinction, in drawing a clear difference. But the candidate himself failed last night. And in fact, if he doesn't apologize and backtrack on the eating of pets, again, I apologize to your viewers for saying this, but if he doesn't do it, the press is going to eat him alive over the next 48 hours.
Join us right now.
Who cares? Like, God, he's getting super hung up on this pet thing. Can you imagine Trump coming out for his big apology?
No, that's a huge mistake. Yeah,
like,
no,
yeah, that's a giant mistake.
I completely disagree with that analysis. That's a very dumb. That's a horrible move. Yeah.
What a weak move. Oh, look, I made a giant mistake in the debate. I said that Haitians were eating your pets.
Right.
And I want to apologize to the American people for it. This is what passes for political analysis.
Yeah, no, I don't know why that's his bugaboo, because I agree with him on the other things he was saying, but that's like way off. Though the pets thing was a pretty big mistake, because you have this weird story. Most people, I don't know how many people even know about it. It's like this unconfirmed rumor. When, like, there are plenty of stories that, you know, he could talk about, like the woman that died, that was killed, by the illegal alien, that everyone was talking about for months. There's a lot of these like instances of crime that he could point to without relying on like the pet meme thing.
I love one of you guys said that they're trying to get the cat lady vote back that JD Vance like crapped on by saying Trump is going to save your pets.
Save your pets.
Yeah, Trump is out to protect your pets. And I just thought, oh, that's hilarious.
It's interesting because, obviously after the debate, Taylor Swift came out supporting Kamala Harris. And at the end of her little statement, she said, like, from a single cat lady or something. That comment, I think, really is going to haunt Trump and his campaign more than I think anyone anticipated. That cat lady comment, just because there's a lot of single women in this country who like cats. And it's kind of like, it might be kind of like, the deplorables comment, kind of like the Mitt Romney, the takers comment. Like, if you're running for president and you or your vice presidential candidate makes a line that sounds like you're attacking a giant swath of the country, even if they're not, that's always like a pretty big mark that gets kind of like lodged in people's consciousness.
Yeah, I don't think it's good either. I do like the fact that they keep pointing out, like the media comes out and says Trump has a huge gender problem. There's this gender gap. Women are not going to vote for Trump. And so many of the Trump surrogates are now saying, well, I mean, Kamala has the same gender problem. Like, there's a ton of men that are like not going to vote for Kamala. How come the media never mentions that? Like, because it's like, fuck men, right? Fuck who men vote for.
Part of it is like the fuck men mentality. That's definitely a big part of it. And part of it, I think, though, is also like Kamala's problem with men it's not really like necessarily like a policy or anything that she's specifically said. Like, it's a vibe. Where with the Trump thing, it's more about the abortion stuff and it's more about the JD Vance comment. There's something more like tangible to point to.
Okay, I gotcha.
Right? Like, I don't believe, I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't believe Kamala's made any comments about like, mandatory.
Yeah, but I mean, we could dig in.
Like, I don't know what male issues you'd be talking about.
We could dig in and find out why men are reluctant to vote for Kamala. I would like to know that. I would definitely like to know that.
I think it's what I would guess is probably her general vibe and the general vibe of the country, and the Democrats have been moving to make themselves the very, very like female centric. Like, we're only talking about female issues. We're super concentrated on female issues. And so there are men that are like, well, what about me? What about my issues? I guess you don't give a fuck about me. Right.
Yeah.
And
I think
then they, move away from the Democrats.
Like, the abortion thing is likely the culprit for the gender gap in favor women in favor of Democrats. The cat lady thing, I'm not so certain of. I mean,
Well, it reinforces the abortion.
it does.
So,
It definitely
yeah.
does. Look, and I mean, maybe it is. I don't know what a huge effect that is. But the men, I really don't know, aside from, like you said, just a vibe.
Well, in the debate, Kamala's, some of her biggest strengths were talking about abortion, and that's going to continue. They're going to just talk about abortion, abortion, abortion as much as humanly fucking possible, in these coming days. And that's why, again, Trump should have really just been focusing on inflation, inflation, inflation,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Inflation, 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 economy, economy, economy. Kamala Harris, you're right. The way that you framed it, it's like the perfect visual imagery is your bank account is worth 20% less under Kamala Harris and Biden than it was when I was president.
Yeah, look, and he should hammer that home. That should be the thing he's talking about. Well, I mean, he perceives of the only reason that he won in 2020 was immigration. So he's going back to that old well again.
Right, which is
You can tie it into the
but-
inflation, yeah.
Right, but you can talk about both issues.
So look at this. Look who's analyzing the debate.
Yeah.
Check the watch.
Oh yeah,
together.
I saw. No, I saw. I haven't watched it, but I saw that he did. Yeah, I don't know what he's gonna say about this. Oh,
This
but here-
communist.
it's funny. I was watching. There was a CNN did an instant poll about this, and there's a very interesting response. So before the debate, they had like the favorability view. Before the debate, Kamala's at 39% and Trump's at 41%. So Trump's
Right.
like more favorable
Wow.
before. After the debate, it switches. Kamala goes up 45%, so she gains 6 points, and then Trump drops 3 points and goes down to 39%, right?
That is
So-
not good.
Well, no, that's not good for Trump. But here's what's interesting. Even though they're kind of switched on favorability, they then asked afterwards your confidence in the candidate's ability to lead the country. And even though the favorability flipped against Trump, 36% said they had a lot of confidence in Trump, and only 32% said they had a lot in Kamala.
What were they again?
36% said they had a lot of confidence in Trump's ability to lead the country, and only 32% said they had a lot of confidence in Kamala's
So he
ability.
beat her by 4 points.
Even
So
though he
that's
lost
not good for
favorability.
Kamala.
Right. Even though he lost favorability, he still won in people's confidence to lead the country, which I thought was very interesting.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, look. A lot of people perceive politics that way. They're like, I don't want to have a drink with my attorney, but I want a badass attorney that's going to keep me out of trouble.
well, it's fascinating because that was the big line for George W. Bush
It was, I know.
people-
It's completely opposite.
right. Yeah. People like him because they feel like that he's more personable. They can have a drink with him, blah, 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 blah. And so the Democrats have been like attacking that idea for so long. I wonder if it's going to backfire because just like people are like, well, yeah, Donald Trump seems like a total jerk, but maybe I want a total jerk to be the bull in the china shop as long as he's like, our bull.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. So I'm curious to see, will Trump fire anyone in response to this debate? That would be a good insight into how the Trump campaign feels about the debate. There was some rumblings about whether, because he's had some problems with some of his campaign people. Is he going to fire anyone? Because that would obviously show that there's not a lot of confidence there.
He needs to stop underestimating his opponent. That's for sure.
Yes. that
Hopefully he
is true.
stops calling her stupid.
Well, he needs to go. Well, this is the problem. And I don't know if he's capable of doing this. He needs to sit down at the whiteboard and have the person say, this is what you need to attack Kamala on. And he's got to do it. And he's not doing it.
Yeah.
You got to tie her in every chance you get to the last 4 years. You got to hit her on inflation. And you got to talk about how she doesn't have any plans. But then also, I guess the flip side about not having plans is that he's worried that
He
then
doesn't
you'll
have any plans.
He doesn't
Yeah.
have any plans either, and he's going to have to explain, his policies.
She'll find out I don't have any plans.
Exactly, and it's like, okay, so no one has any fucking plans here. This is our plan. Our
Well, we have a
planless,
concept of a plan,
election.
Sitch. Come on.
Of course.
Give
yeah, I
us
have
a
concept.
break here.
That was such a bad answer.
I have
Not the
a-
president.
I have a concept.
Right. It's like, okay, I mean, I don't know.
Hmm.
Some other interesting news things was there's this talk about a government shutdown coming.
No way.
Yes,
Please make
yes
it
way.
stop.
And well, it's kind of interesting. So there
Just what
was a
they need.
rumbling. There was a rumbling that the Republicans would shut down the government unless they that Democrats passed a bill that I think had something to do with like making it so illegal immigrants couldn't vote or something. Um, and on one hand, I thought, huh, that's interesting. That feels like a good strategy
Yeah,
because you're like,
politically,
okay, well,
definitely.
why would you be against now, like making it so illegal immigrants can't vote? Like that feels like a good strategy. But it was interesting because I was listening to uh Mike Johnson, Speaker Johnson, talk about this on a Fox News interview, and he seemed super, super not confident in this government shutdown for this bill. And I'm guessing it's because historically the Republicans have not ever fared well with the government shutdown for any reason. So I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's kind of a good idea in theory, but the history of it is probably wise to not roll that dice because I could see that as very heavily backfiring as well because the
This
Republicans
close to
generally
an
seem to get
election, definitely.
yes,
Yeah. Those
right.
Social Security checks don't go out and people get pretty pissed.
Yeah, so I don't think that government shutdown is going to happen. I think it's smart to kind of put the kibosh on that one, even though there's like a good bill to push for it. Let's see. What else did I write down in my notes for today?
Look at this, taking notes.
Yeah, I had a bunch of things. I think we hit most of them.
Oh my gosh, my one note is to say that I ordered the comic books. So you're running out of time to order a comic book. It's doubtful
There you
that
go,
I
everybody.
will. It's doubtful that I will run shipping. Like I'm gonna put the books in the. I'm gonna board and bag them and send them in the mailers. But I'm probably gonna do it like over the course of a week and not like trickle orders come in and me deliver orders like that. So
Right.
your window of opportunity is closing. But I
Oh,
meant to do that. I
yeah.
meant to say that at the beginning of the stream. It's hilarious. That's why I'm like
Right.
one of my only notes.
Okay, so also I had on my notes, yes, things to get to. Okay, so also this morning when I woke up, so I looked into the Roe v. Wade thing because I know there's something there that people were trying to tell us. I don't know
Oh
if okay.
yeah, yeah.
I feel like there's something there. So okay,
And
and I
Adam
get it, I
got it
get it, I get it.
completely correct, of
No,
course,
you didn't.
but
No,
just correct
you
in a
did.
slightly off way that we're
Well, no,
going
no, no.
to.
You were incorrect. Well, be fair, we were both incorrect, but I
Uh,
understand where the confusion was coming from. Okay.
right.
So what
We
people
were
were trying to
correct
say,
in spirit,
right? We're
but the details were a little
okay.
against
That's
us.
a good way of saying it. That's a good way of saying it. No. So what people were trying to say last night was so when Roe v. Wade passed, it didn't say okay. So I guess the way to think about it is before Roe v. Wade passed, most states in the country had made abortions illegal. So when Roe v. Wade passed, essentially what it said, the ruling basically said was the states could no longer make laws making it illegal to have abortions until after viability. That was the only period that they could put those sorts of regulations on to make it illegal.
Okay.
Okay. And then, but then I think where the confusion that you were having was, at least it's what I looked up seemed to say, was that at the time that Roe v. Wade was in place, even though technically you could have states that had abortions that were legal all up until, the moment of conception, the moment of birth, there weren't any states that had that at all. The states were mostly just the most lax states were up until viability, up until the Roe v. Wade date. And then ironically, once Roe v. Wade got nixed, that's when you had these states that basically had these lax laws that allowed it up until, with no restriction, which is kind of ironic, but
Okay.
okay.
So were any changes? So how would you simply define the Roe v. Wade standard?
Roe v. Wade made it so that states could not make abortion illegal until after viability.
Right. So in the
That's how I
third
would say it.
trimester, they had the option to make abortion illegal.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So
Where
Roe v. Wade
before,
really never imposed any regulation.
right. Where before they could make it illegal, just period.
All
All the
abortion
time.
could be
Right.
illegal.
And
So
so
Roe v. Wade said you can't make abortion illegal.
until after viability.
Right. But that is a
Essentially,
regulation.
Sure, sure, sure. But it was because this came up with when they asked Kamala, like, would you like what would you make it illegal to have abortions after the third or during the third trimester after that time period, and she said, I want to go back to Roe v. Wade, and so the way that you can interpret that is either she's saying, well, the way I initially interpreted it is her saying, okay, she wants to bring it back to you can't have an abortion after Roe v. Wade, but that's not really what she was saying. She was just saying states could then on their own make a decision about whether you would make it illegal after the third trimester.
But
But you would
can't
have to make it protected until the third trimester. So it is kind of like a weaselly way. And that's why Trump said, ask her if she's going to make it, illegal in the seventh, eighth, ninth month. And she didn't answer the question.
right, I understand that, but just focusing strictly on me because that's the way I want to do it.
Right.
Like
Adam, you can get an
saying
abortion whenever you want. Okay.
no, saying that all you have to do is say Roe v. Wade makes it an obligation to offer women abortions up to the third trimester. And all of a
Yes.
sudden it becomes a regulation.
Yes.
So then
What is regulation?
I'm not wrong. I'm completely correct.
Well, no. I believe last night we said we didn't use the word regulation. We used the word restriction. Right.
Right. Yes.
Okay. Well, maybe I misunderstood what you were saying. I don't. I
So
thought.
the restriction is that you cannot ban the procedure.
Right.
You must offer the procedure up until the third trimester.
Right.
That is the Roe v. Wade standard.
I thought you were saying, and I don't know if you did say this, and you're just being coy here, is that the Roe v. Wade restriction was that you couldn't have an abortion
After the
after
third
viability.
trimester.
Right.
Right. Yes. It's only, and this is only in the case of if there is exceptions. Yes.
Yeah. Like if there's a medical exception or something. Right.
Yes.
Yes.
So, but look, so the framing is just different.
Okay, I guess, but that's what we were talking about. Is
Yeah.
how to frame and well, it's not just the framing, it's how to understand the concept of Roe
Yes.
v. Wade. So
It's like you can have abortion up until the very end of the pregnancy if it threatens the life of the mother. That's why those exceptions are there.
yes, but that's generally always the case. So I mean,
Right.
there's obviously the difficulty about what that means, and you have these problems where some women are like literally told to wait until they get to life-threatening conditions because the law is very shitty and vague in how it's written. So
Right, which is the reason why a lot of people like the lax laws. Like the
Right.
best argument against making any sort of restrictions is that you're going to get in this do or die situation and the doctor is going to be afraid to act.
well, yeah, and I think the problem is, while I understand the pro-choice argument, which intuitively makes sense, which is, okay, why would a woman carry a baby to term for so long and then get an abortion the day before like it's born? Like that doesn't seem like intuitively like, okay, that makes sense. Intuitively, it doesn't seem like that's something that would happen a lot. But I don't know if that's actually true or not. And no one knows if that's actually true or not, even if it intuitively makes sense, because we just don't have data on that.
Yeah, a lot of people trot out this anecdote about some woman who gets left high and dry in her 7th month of pregnancy and wants to abort the baby because the guy left her. So
Right. But I'm just saying we don't know. I don't believe there's any sort of official data or any sort of data collection on how often, those quote late term abortions even happen. So
right.
okay, and then I guess the other thing, was the thing that you sent me. Isn't protecting American workers with tariffs and protecting American workers by stopping illegal immigration the same thing?
Yeah,
And
this
so I
was
guess,
this was a comment one of you guys
right.
said this, yeah.
Right. And so in terms of like raising prices, yes, it has the exact same impact. If you wanted to lower prices, having a bunch of illegal labor come into the country and take people's jobs would lower prices. It would obviously it would probably harm the economy overall, because then you're lowering everyone's wages. And so, yeah, it is the same thing. But the difference is, well, I guess it's not exactly the same thing. I think putting a flat putting a flat 20% tariff on goods coming in the country would have a much quicker, like more visceral, like immediate effect. Where having more immigrants is like a more gradual effect, essentially. Whether you're having more or less, it's going to have a more gradual effect. But I think the important thing is, and I said this last night, is I'm not really talking about these policies in terms of what I want or don't want. I'm talking about them in terms of how I think the American public will perceive them and what, how it's going to affect the election. And I don't think most Americans, when they hear Trump talk about stopping illegals from entering the country, I don't think most Americans think, oh, if I get more illegals in the country, that's going to make my grocery bill go down. Like, I don't think that's the immediate thought process that goes through people's minds. And even if it is, because, something like on the left kind of bring it up sometimes, it's outweighed by the fact that, there's other issues of illegal immigration that they don't want, right?
Yeah, totally.
Where the tariff one, that's the only issue. Is tariffs going to make my price go up or down? That's like the first thing people think about. So I think that's why the perception about these two policies is pretty significantly different in terms of how the public would perceive them.
Well, the reason the politicians like tariffs, though, is because that may be the overall perception. Like, how does it affect me at the grocery store? But the people that it also, like the people who it tangibly affects, like the workers in some factory in Pennsylvania, are like in a swing district that they need to win.
Yes,
so
exactly.
They're like,
right. That's a good
this
point.
tariff will tangibly affect these 500 people that I need to vote for me in the next election. So they're like, tariff it is.
Exactly. No,
Let's
that's a great point. Yeah. Yeah. If there was like if 50% of Pennsylvanians worked in the pen factory making pens, and Trump or Kamala said they're going to put a 50% tariff on, pens coming from China.
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
Yeah.
They're like, based. The pen factory is going to be blowing up. We're going to be hiring new people. I'm going to get a raise.
We're going to get a bunch of new orders. Yeah, of course.
Right. Yeah.
So. Okay. Let's see.
Are we reading super chats now?
Yeah.
Cool.
Hold up. I'm just looking to make sure I got everything. I think I got everything in my notes. Okay. Oh, hold on. I got to refresh my page. I guess when the chat broke, all the super chats were like frozen, so I didn't see any of them until let me refresh the page here.
I brought them up. I brought these up last night in the live stream.
Oh, do people like that?
People really, yeah. A couple people in the comments were like, "This is great."
Okay.
Oh my god!
Ostracy for $20.
Super chat again.
Thank you so much for the $20. Ostracy says, I caught up on the stream. I think you guys being almost too nice to Trump and mean to Kamala in review of the debate. Really? Wow, look at that. Also, I'm going to argue with Adam on Roe v. Wade as abortion restrictions. Well, I think maybe we got to the bottom of that, but maybe Adam will.
There was a bunch of people in the comments that were saying that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, but the restriction is just on the people trying to ban it. The restriction is on the pro-lifers.
Yes, exactly. Right. Yeah, that'd be the way to say it. But well, I don't think I was being too nice to Trump. I just think it's that Trump is funnier. And so like I can laugh about Kamala wasn't really funny in the debate. So there's a lot more laugh moments from Trump.
Well, and my bias is towards fairness and the truth. And like it completely triggers me that the media can spin up this bloodbath story and completely divide the country. And that's not even mentioned, right? That all of the fact-checking bias went against Trump makes me sympathetic towards him. So
yeah,
like, and the people who are like, oh my God, I can't believe you're being so nice to Trump. They fucking hate Trump. They love that the media is lying about them. Oh, they just drink it up. They're like, that's right. Fucking lie. That guy deserves it.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it's right. So.
Well, and also I don't know if you saw, there's a picture people were circulating. It showed like the CNN fact checker people. And it said like Donald Trump lied 30 plus times in the debate. Kamala Harris lied like 1+ time in the debate.
Look, all of her lies, though, are media sanctioned lies. They are. And they're whoppers. They're giant.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. There were like 4. See, this is kind of the issue. I don't really have a problem with doing these debates if they fact check, but their issue with doing that is that it's always going to come off as biased.
Yes.
Because if you're only gonna like if you start fact checking one side, then you have to start fact checking the other side, right? And so, like, okay, I don't necessarily mind fact checking on like the eating the pets thing. I think that the fact checking on the abortion thing, I completely disagree with that. I think that woman was just wrong. I think that was I don't think I think that's a wrong statement and a completely wrong fact check. What was it? What were the other two fact checks? Because didn't they fact check Trump 4 times in the debate? Do you remember?
I don't know.
Trump fact checked.
I mean, we looked at a bunch of them.
Right.
The bloodbath one, like there was absolutely no mention of it. But like I said,
Well, they
the
didn't
reason why
fact check.
they're
No, I'm saying, yeah, they didn't fact check that at all. So
they're
right.
not going to. Yeah, the
Right.
Charlottesville, they're not going to fact check that.
No,
The
they didn't. The Project 2021.
the Project 2025, they fact checked and were
2025,
like,
yeah.
Trump is totally lying. Of course, he's involved with Project 2025.
No, but I mean, the moderators didn't fact check it like live during the debate,
No.
the way that they fact checked Trump. So
Look, and I honestly don't care. Like the moderators calling him out for the abortion thing. I mean, it is a lie, basically. The whole looking and everyone's going to get totally triggered that I'm saying that's a lie. It is a lie. They're basing the late term abortion thing on some like it's not a nationwide policy. It's like they base it on something some governor said, right?
well, no. Okay, I agree. Okay, here's why I don't agree with that fact check. So it is true that like the Alex Jones comment about the post-birth abortions is like very deceptive. Is massively deceptive. It's a completely out of context clip that he's talking about. Okay. That's true. My problem with the fact check is she said no state, I think she specifically said something like no state says post-birth abortions are legal. That depends entirely on how you're defining the terms. The left and the right are defining, what does it mean to like be post-birth? And, is it a baby or a fetus? Like they're defining all these terms differently. So I don't think you can fact check that when both sides are using different terminology to mean different things.
Right. Oh, so you're saying calling it out is dishonest then?
Right. Because okay, so if you have a fetus, if you're in a state, all right, that has abortion up until the moment of conception, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're 23 weeks along, so you're still in the viability range, and you get an abortion and the baby comes out or the fetus comes out, however you want to define it, comes out and it's still alive, right? In one of those states. What do? Do they try to put it, save its life and keep it in like a premature baby care, or do they kill it? I don't fucking know. I have no clue what they do. I'm skeptical that they try to save its life. So,
Right.
but if that's the case and they don't try to save its life, then Trump is correct in saying that there are some states where they do have these quote post-birth abortions, depending on how you define the concept.
Oh, I got you. Yeah, totally.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, they would define it as just part of the abortion process. And
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right.
And they're defining it as no, the baby was born because it was taken from the
Out of the
woman.
womb. Yeah, exactly. Right. So that's why I don't like that one. Oh, the other one that they fact checked was the crime is soaring thing, which I don't believe. I mean, I do believe crime has probably increased. I'm not sure I don't agree with that fact check either. So
Did they fact check the FBI taking out the cities?
they didn't. No, they didn't.
They didn't fact check that. And
No.
look, they even used the report where the FBI took the cities out as part of the fact check that Trump was lying.
Right.
It's like, what? Why don't you fact check whether or not he was lying about the cities? That's what I care about. Like he had a response.
Right. Yeah. No, that's true. And that's true. And yeah, they should. If that was like,
Like, was he lying about this report? No, we're not going to fact check that because in fact, he wasn't lying. They did take it out. Sucker.
the other thing was some people were like in this article is claiming it's fact check. I wouldn't even call this a fact check. They're talking about when, they said you lost by a whisker, and then Trump had his like really dog shit answer about I was being sarcastic. And
Oh,
then the
yeah.
host said, like, I didn't detect the sarcasm. Like, that's not a fact check. And I don't have a problem with that because I think that was a total lie that I was being sarcastic. That is not, I did not perceive that quote sarcasm either. So
There were, I believe, people in our comments saying that he was being sarcastic and they could totally detect it. So
I'm gonna be real. I didn't hear anyone say that before he said it. Like when that clip came out of him on Lex Friedman, I didn't hear anyone saying he was joking or sarcastic. I don't know. Maybe I missed it, but it didn't come off that way to me.
I love
This. What's the sarcasm? It doesn't even make sense. I lost by a whisker.
right.
Like I even thought when he said that line. See, I interpreted that line completely differently because people were saying, "Oh, that's him acknowledging that he lost the election." I didn't think it when I heard him say that we lost by a whisker. I thought he meant like we lost because Mike Pence didn't overthrow the electors.
Oh my
That's what I
God.
thought he meant. I was like, wait, is that
Did you really?
I did because I was like, oh, I guess that's the whisker, right? Like, what is he talking
The
about?
whisker is Mike Pence?
Yeah, that's what I thought he
Wouldn't
meant.
take
So I
the
was like,
fucking alternate slate of electors.
right. I was like, okay, I guess, maybe. So
I just like the whisker line. A whisker. What the
So this is interesting. So
is it a cat whisker or a dog whisker?
Yeah, right. This is actually kind of funny. So I was curious if anyone fact checked the crime thing, right? So I typed in like Trump crime debate fact check. So it came up to this PBS article. Obviously PBS is, pretty biased. And it says, Trump cherry picks to say crime is up. Trump, crime here is up through the roof. Mostly false. Okay. They say it's mostly false. And here's the explanation. The National Crime Victimization Survey, which the Justice Department conducts annually by surveying Americans about crimes they have experienced, shows a 43% increase in violent crime from 2020 to 2022. Okay, so
that's hugely up.
Right.
43% increase.
43%, right. But the other main federal study of crime conducted annually by the FBI and based on official crime reports from law enforcement in most jurisdictions in the U.S. shows a decline from 20 to 2022.
Because go ahead.
It's unclear why the two surveys diverge so much, experts say, but by focusing only on the victimization survey, Trump is ignoring the FBI data through 2022.
Dude, that's as biased as fuck.
Well, that's very biasly worded because you could say the same is true of the moderator who fact checked it. They could say, well, we don't actually if the most neutral position is to say we don't know, there's two conflicting reports. One says it's up, one says it's down. Right? That's like the most neutral way to frame it. Not to say, well, he cherry picked it by going in one direction. It's like, well, so did the moderator then.
Yeah, of course the moderator cherry picked. Not only that, they don't even give you the opportunity to think for yourself and mention why there is a different takes on those surveys.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because they would have to go into the fact that, well, in areas where crime is bad, a lot of crime goes unreported, right?
Right.
They would have to actually mention that, and they don't want it to look bad. They don't want to say, oh yeah, look, a lot of people think there's a lot of unreported crime.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why the two surveys diverge so much.
Well, it's and it's also interesting too, because you remember like when, there was all this talk about, 1 in 3 women are sexually assaulted, right? Or 1 in 4 women are sexually assaulted.
Look at this.
And then,
but they don't mention it.
Right. And then they'd say like, well, wait a minute. Like if you look at like the times it's reported, it's like not 1 in 4. It was like 8% or something. It was like significantly lower. And then all the feminists would say, oh, but that's because, women just don't report it. Right. And the media and people on the left would take the victimization report as gospel. Right.
Oh, yeah, they would.
And now we have like the flip flop. Right. Now we have the flip flop. It's like now it's the right pointing to the victimization report and the left pointing to the crime report. So, people just choose whatever facts suit them, which is kind of funny.
Yeah, look, the whole game of the fact checkers is must determine Trump is lying, must determine Kamala is debate Jesus, and that's it. That's the game that they're playing. And this, look, this is why I'm biased. I'm like, fuck these people. Why can't they just be neutral? Why can't they
Right.
let me decide? Why is it up to them? Why are they spoon feeding me this information so I come to the conclusion that they want me to come to?
Mm-hmm.
Why is that, Sitch? Why are they
because
such
because we don't really
assholes?
have a lot of media news apparatuses that are dedicated to like informing you. They're dedicated to cheerleading for a team.
Gaslighting you? Yeah.
Right. So, though I don't know. I am. It's hard to tell. I am curious in alternate universe if we didn't have Trump running, if we had a different Republican, would things
If they
look
would
the
be more
same
neutral.
or would it be more neutral?
Yeah.
Like obviously MSNBC, so it'll be like wildly biased, but I'm curious about the other sources. So. Herman Steadfast, thanks so much for being a 4-month free will seeker. Thank you. And look at this. Adam Friended, a 26-month free will seeker. Look
Look
at
at
that.
me. Yeah.
Look at you.
I did my thing.
Kovefe. There you go. You got the
You know what that
Kovefe
is
going.
from?
That was the Trump butt tweet.
Exactly.
The Kovefe tweet, yeah. Stigma Rose for 18 months. Thank you so much. Says 18 rated Supreme S class is for establishment shills with TDS. Wow. Jeez.
Wow.
Very rude.
Stigma.
Ostracy for $5 says Trump lost because he had a much higher opportunity cost. I think I agree with that. Yeah, I think I agree with that.
I agree.
Brian for $5 says, I think the faces was a good attempt to give quizzical faces for the short clips and memes. I think that was the intention behind it. No, I agree with you completely. I think that is the intention behind it. I think it works. It works for the like Zoomer TikTok, video where, how like every fucking TikTok video, because it's like the horrible resolution of you holding your phone straight. It's got like the one video at the top and the one video at the bottom.
Yeah.
So I don't know, maybe they can do like the dual faces. They'll put like the Trump talking in the top and Kamala looking, weirdly. So
She's got her brat faces on, right? That's her brat look.
Right. Luke Nagel for $2 says, all my friends, even conservatives, thought Kamala won. Yeah, I think it comes down to what I said, where Kamala accomplished what she needed to accomplish. Trump didn't accomplish what he needed to accomplish. Kamala was able to paint Trump as like fitting into all the negative stereotypes about him that exist. Trump was not able to paint Kamala as fitting into the negative stereotypes of Kamala that existed. So,
yeah, missed opportunity. Hopefully, they're going to do another debate though, and we'll see what happens. Right?
I think it's going to be literally the same thing. They do another debate.
You don't look. I do think Kamala can improve. Like she already has improved.
Uh-huh.
As Sitch yawns. Like, yeah, right.
The
curious thing is if this made her less intimidated to do more interviews. I'm curious if we'll start seeing more interviews out of her because look, I don't agree with a lot of Frank Luntz's analysis, but I do agree with him saying people don't know enough about these candidates. And I think Kamala is probably going to try to fix that, even if Trump doesn't. Because look, she wants to be in the next debate and say, look, I have a bunch of detailed policies. You're the one that doesn't have any policy. Then she can totally turn that narrative around on him, right? Use his own narrative against him. That would be stellar. Why wouldn't she attempt to do that?
Repeat that for a second.
Look, she's been saying for months, the right has been saying for months and months and months, Kamala doesn't have any policies. Kamala doesn't have any policies.
Yes.
So if she comes out with some 35-page detailed policy report, she can turn that around on them and say, hey, where are your policies?
Right.
Where are your policy details? Right.
That could very well happen. And that could totally blow up in the Republicans' face in the coming month or two. So
yeah, why wouldn't she do that? I think she would.
I don't know. I mean, she's still, it's interesting. They didn't ask about the unrealized tax gains. They didn't ask about.
Yeah, another bias thing. Like the one thing everybody wants to fucking know about, and the moderators don't even ask a question about it.
They didn't ask about the price caps for price gouging either.
Insane. Insane.
They didn't really push her on like what the fuck. Like, I guess we don't really know what her border policy is, except I guess it's just to pass whatever that bill, the bill was originally. So
Yeah, that is crazy that they didn't ask the unrealized gains tax question when that's all they're talking about on CNBC and in the business community. Wow.
yeah.
Look, these high-powered business people, the donors that run everything, they couldn't even get a question in the debate. Isn't that hilarious?
It is. It is. Luke, I read that one. J-Mac, thanks so much to Circuit Father. Daddy J-Mac for the $20 says, I did a little fact checking of my own regarding abortion. There's been 2 abortions in 2022 on the 6th, 7th month, but clinics are not required to report the gestational period. There's been 89 unreported abortions.
In the 6th and 7th month?
Well, I don't know. I mean, first of all, if that's the case, that's still very, very low. But yeah, as I said, they don't have to report the gestational period. So we
Look,
don't
and
know
it'd
the
be
answer to that.
interesting to know what the circumstances were, if it was like life
Right.
of the mother or.
Right, obviously. Yeah, because then it's fine. So
Look, none of us want to see people aborting their babies willy-nilly in the 6th and 7th month. So
right.
on a whim, they're doing it for their documentary project at USC.
Oof.
Yeah.
Oof. Thank you so much to Circuit Fire Daddy J-Mac for the $100. Thank you so much. Says Trump was factual that there were absolutely no term limits on abortions per Minnesota's own Department of Health. Walz also did veto the Born Alive bill, which does require health providers to administer health care to babies born after a failed abortion. Well, there you go. Yeah, I wonder. See, that's another thing. He should have really. Trump did say it, but I feel like he should have really just hammered. He should have been very specific. He should have said, again, this is Trump. Trump cannot speak properly a lot of times. I don't know why. Just to say, Tim Walz is the governor of a state. The state has no restrictions on abortion. Does Kamala stand by that law that her VP is in favor of? Right. Say very paint the picture very clearly to people. So
Right. Oh, abortion is just so. Ugh.
Brian for $5 says, I love how people are clamoring for actual policies now rather than letting their politicians say their vague statements for us to fill in what we want. It is nice. It is nice. I guess. I think it's only happening because of the weird swapperoo with Kamala, but it is nice for whatever reason it's happening. So, Caleb for $5 says, complementary colors only work in fashion if you're highlighting the contrast in color subtly like accessories. Whatever this is a sin. I don't know. Are you talking about was something Frank Luntz was wearing, or is it something Michael Burns was wearing? But,
I'm not sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Brian, thanks so much for the $50. Thank you, Brian. Says they both did a good job to cover for their weaknesses. Trump didn't talk over Kamala and even had to tell Kamala to be quiet when he was talking. And Kamala came in well prepared and ready for Trump's talking points to seem confident. I don't agree. I think Kamala did a good job covering for her weaknesses. I don't. Well, maybe Trump didn't interrupt her, so that's true. He was prepared for that, but he still didn't accomplish the goal of exposing Kamala's weaknesses, I guess. Maybe that's the way I should say it. Where she was able to expose Trump's weaknesses. So Mr. Middleman for $2 says it's hard to believe anyone loves either candidate. True. Very true. Very true.
Well, there are, crazy people for both candidates. They just can't get enough of Trump and people who can't get enough of Kamala.
Right.
So
it's interesting.
But not me, obviously, not Sitch. Probably not a lot of people here, but.
Libertarian Sasquatch for $5 says, I found myself agreeing with Trump. My area has gotten noticeably worse over the last 4 years. Crackheads everywhere. Dems just ignore it. Yeah, I was actually thinking about that the other day. I don't remember. I was listening to something and people were talking about like problems with, vagrancy and poor people and homeless people and all this other stuff. And it's like, yeah, it's got to be so fucking depressing and like gross to live in an area that was like a nice area and to see just basically like decline kind of just go and hit.
Yeah, I've seen that. My folks the house I grew up in, the neighborhood turned on us and we ended up having to move out. So I've
Yeah.
literally lived through that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it is very tough. I don't know if you've ever experienced it. So
I haven't, no. No.
yeah. Um, yeah, and it is, I mean, Democrats and liberals, and I suffer a bit from this myself. They're often pathologically empathetic to the point where like the neighborhood is deteriorating and they're basically they view it as like, how do we help these homeless people? And I'm thinking, well, why is it our problem, right?
Right, yeah.
How do we help them? Well, look, I actually pitched your plan the other day. Maybe I'll go to the city council meeting and pitch it. We need a
The drug
drug
fights?
prison. Yeah. We need a drug prison. So this would be a prison
Yeah.
that you actually opt into. You don't have to do a crime to get in there. You just
Right.
go and you say, listen, I want to be thrown in prison. Now you get as many free drugs as you want in this prison. The only catch is you can't go, you can't leave, you can't, like, you're incarcerated, right?
You can't leave until you're clean.
Yeah.
And there's cameras everywhere that film it so people can watch the live stream.
Look, that's how they stay in business. I like this
Exactly,
addition.
yeah.
This is a good
Right.
idea. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Drug prison.
There you go.
I think it's a good idea. Look,
Yeah.
there really are two types of homeless people. There are the people that fall on hard times, which, look, life comes along and cuts people off on the knees all the time. Like
Right.
their life is going great. Then all of a sudden it falls apart.
Right.
They lose a family member and they lose their shit. So,
Right.
those people I do think we should be empathetic for, and those
Yep.
people probably will snap back. But then there's the people who are like lifelong drug users. Like they are creating their own disaster everywhere they go. They're never, that's never going to change for them. And the drug prison is the perfect opportunity for them, right?
But we can't call it a drug prison. We have to call it like a drug community. Right? You gotta call it something nice.
Look, they have
Right.
to, I actually like the idea of calling it a drug prison because it's like,
Well, you want people to go there, so you
yeah,
don't
but
want it
look,
to,
this is the thing. Like drug addicts are like the word drug is so appealing to them that you can put it next to the word prison and they're still going to be like,
Mm-hmm.
because you're not candy coating it. Look, people are going to come along, these pathologically empathetic people, and they're going to say that you gaslit them, you trick them into joining the drug community when really it's a prison.
Right.
You just head that off at the pass. You just call it a prison. You're like, yeah, it is a
Junkie Haven.
prison.
I like Junkie Haven.
Look at this. You're already trying to gaslight people, Sitch. You're trying to brand it as something good. No, this is a terrible place.
The drug festival. The drug. You're right. You should call it the drug. Well, drug prison. I don't know. Drug community. Drug home.
Look, you are not. I want it to be clear to people.
You want people to
You
go.
are not going to leave.
Right. Okay. Drug prison it is. We'll keep it a drug prison.
This place, look, you check in, but you don't check out.
Right.
This is
no,
like
you
the
can
Roach
check out. You just have
Motel.
to be clean, and it's
I don't want to give them false hope.
Wow, terrible.
You make it sound like there's going to be rehabilitation programs in there. No,
No, listen, no. If you want, there's rehabilitation programs in there. Right?
There's like one window where you just walk up and say what drug you want, and they give it to you. That's fucking it. Now, I don't want any counseling.
You gotta let people out. Okay, gotta give people an opportunity.
No.
Okay, look at that. Why does it matter? Why you?
Because they're our problem. They will be coming and going. They'll be treating it like a fucking hotel. They'll be like, look, I'm going to make it on the outside for a while.
I see.
No.
Maybe there's some kind of like if you like go in and out, like you can't leave.
No insies and outsies. You check in in 10-year increments.
Okay.
Yes.
The junkie junkyard. That's a good one. Druggy daycare. I like that.
Oh, druggy daycare is good.
Yeah.
They are the bane of civilized communities' existence. You can't let them have comes and goes as you please. They will be turning it into a hotel.
Okay.
They need to know this is where you stay forever. In exchange, it's like a little
Yeah.
contract, right? In exchange for having as many drugs as you want at any given time,
Right.
you lose your freedom.
I mean, when you're addicted to drugs, do you really have freedom anyway?
Exactly.
There
Now
you
you're
go.
talking. Now you're
It,
talking.
it's funny. I could see like some dystopian future, like Demolition Man, Time Cop, movie, and like, there's like the guy like saying like he's like explaining this concept that exists in the world.
I
It's like,
read
why
this.
have the false freedom of annoying everyone when you're already addicted to drugs and have given up your freedom long ago?
Oh yeah, no,
Come
that's
to the
great.
come to the drug community where you can get many free drugs as you want.
I read this book about a Bolivian prison, this drug trafficker that gets incarcerated and thrown into a Bolivian prison.
Mhm.
And he keisters a bunch of cocaine because he figures if I get incarcerated, I'll have something to deal with. Like I'll have something of value that I can exchange, right?
Mhm.
So he this first of all, he doesn't get a hotel. He doesn't get a cell in the Bolivian prison. You have to like pay for your own cell. So they kind of throw you into this common area where everyone beats up on you.
Mhm.
So some guy that has a cell takes pity on him and is like, okay, you can share your cell with me until you get on your feet in this Bolivian prison and get your own cell.
Mhm.
And so in exchange for this guy taking pity on him, he shares the fact that I got a bunch of cocaine shoved up my ass that we can sell. And the guy is like, what the fuck would I want with that? They make the drugs in here. He's like,
That's
I
funny.
got a job manufacturing cocaine.
Right, right.
It's the most amazing reversal. He's like hoarding all this cocaine up his butt,
And it's pointless.
and it's pointless.
Right. Terrible.
Don't get yourself thrown into a Bolivian prison because it basically is drug prison.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, my number one advice to anyone is to never do drugs in a foreign country. That's a terrible
Oh,
fucking
I
idea.
know. They have the strictest drug laws. They
Never,
do.
ever, ever in your fucking life do drugs in a foreign country. I mean, you shouldn't try getting thrown in jail in America, but you really don't want to get thrown in jail in somewhere else.
What was that movie? There was a movie
I know what
about
you're
a
talking
guy.
about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forget what it's called. Where
It's
the
like a
hippie.
60s movie, yeah, where the
Yes,
guy
I know
gets thrown
exactly the movie
into
you're talking about. Yeah, but I can't think of the name.
Midnight Express. Is that it?
That
No,
was
that's
it.
not it.
No,
Is
that
it?
was it, wasn't it? It was Midnight Express, I think.
Maybe.
So yeah, yeah.
Someone will say it in the chat.
You don't want that. So
Yeah, you don't want any part of that.
he was in Turkey. He was in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Jank's
Okay.
hometown.
There you go. Ace
Hassan's
for $10.
hometown.
Ace for $10 says Harris's weakness is her strength, and the opposite is true of Trump. She is capable of change because she's an empty vessel. Trump is a dinosaur that can get eyes on him, but is not capable of change. Very true. That's true. I think you find that more and more true of almost everyone in life. Everyone's strength is their weakness. So,
That's good in writing too. That's great for writing characters.
because I think it's just completely true of everyone. I've never not seen that be the case, especially like big personalities and
This
like
is
very popular people.
this is the this is one of the great ways to write good characters because normally
Yes.
someone's strength is a good quality that's pushed to excess, which actually turns it into a bad quality. And
Right.
the movie is them figuring that out and turning that quality that people perceive that could be a good quality just with a little moderation into a good quality. So that's
Right.
their character arc.
That's why I always liked there's this concept in One Punch Man, which is that like the difference between the hero and the monster was that the monster was taking some quality to excess so far it made them a monster.
Totally. Yeah.
And the hero would like straddle that line about not taking it too far.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
The medicine is in the dose.
yes.
Yeah.
Right. Salty Trisket for $10 says Trump's entire campaign at this point is being propped up by the fantasy that if he wins, all the prices will go right back down to where they were in 2019, ignoring how inflation actually works.
True.
I don't think that's the entirety of it, but I think that's a big part of it.
Look, if he's saying like the tariffs, Look, the tariffs obviously did not affect the inflation because Trump put the tariffs on and Biden kept the tariffs on. So
Yeah, but he's saying he's going to raise tariffs.
he had
He's gonna make 'em
tariffs in
more.
both situations.
Yeah, but he's saying he's going to increase the tariffs substantially.
Yes, but if the tariffs were at a sustained level and we got inflation despite the tariffs, I don't think the tariffs is a lever that's going to control inflation.
No, well, it's going to make it worse if you increase it dramatically.
Right.
It's not. I mean, it wouldn't cause inflation, but it will cause price increases. So.
Right. So it's not going to lower inflation.
No, definitely 100%
Yeah.
not. I don't even understand how anyone would perceive it as. That's why it's so bizarre to me again that he keeps. Well, it's not bizarre. I
Well, he
understand the
changed
reason
it
he's
because it
doing
was
but-
drill baby drill originally. Remember this is how we're going to
That's
deal with
true.
inflation.
You know what? You're right. He didn't say drill baby drill at all in that
Yeah,
debate.
he
which is
changed it. He's
interesting.
like, now we're going to do the tariffs.
That
Somebody
is
told him
interesting.
like, energy's only one input.
Hmm.
I mean, it is a major input because obviously energy is an input in every single product.
Of
right?
course. Yeah,
Yeah.
but again, drill baby drill, as I said a billion times, that's not going to reduce prices in any short-term process. So
Look, they're still going with the names. Narcotic neighborhood.
I mean, that's going. And I think, there's all sorts of people pointing out, and it's true that America, I believe, is like way outproducing oil and gas than any other country currently anyway.
Yeah,
So
America's the number one producer.
Right. So this comes back to, and this is interesting. This is kind of surprising. I know I kind of surprised neither Trump nor Kamala have picked up on this policy, which is neither of them has really picked up on the policy of saying oil drilled in America stays in America first.
Right.
And I feel like either of them could pick up that policy, and I'm kind of shocked neither of them has even attempted it. So
I just realized it's September 11th, and none of us
yes,
even
today is
brought that
September
up.
11th. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, it was right after the debate, but yeah, no, I mean, I saw everyone talking about it on Twitter, so remembering September 11th and everything. So
yeah.
M8566 for $2 says, ordered the book today. When can we expect it?
Well, they have to print it, and the printing is going to be between 10 and 15 weeks. So,
wow. Okay.
Yeah, which is kind of like a big range, right? An extra 5 weeks. So I'm going to try to get it down to the 10-week mark as best I can. But I want to get a print that is like a color proof print, because I don't want the books to come back and the color to be just completely disastrous, and that adds like 3 weeks onto it. So
right.
Yeah. So, but look, we might, I'm going to do the math on how many extra books we have. And like, we might do some streams and just try to sell the extra books.
Sure.
If you're down, I mean, I should probably talk to you about this off stream.
Gotta sell books, baby. Sell those books.
So, but look, I am going to try to get it to you before the end of the year, before Christmas. That's like what I'm shooting for. And as soon as I get those books, I'm going to work my fingers to the bone, getting them in the boxes. And I'm going to try to get as much stuff ready so when the books get here, like I can do the fulfillment like lickety split, like ordering all the stuff I need for fulfillment and all that stuff. Right. And also like I kind of want to sort like there are people who've been waiting a lot longer than other people, obviously. So I kind of want to send those books out first, because I thank you guys. Like it never would have happened without you guys backing it. Because like we went into this basically saying, well, maybe we won't even do a book. Like we set a really high price point, which most people don't do. And it took us a while to reach that price point. I made probably like every mistake you can make in learning how to do this, which I will talk a lot more about like once the book is actually out. So I don't want to waste a bunch of time like doing that kind of, I guess I will have more time once the book is off to the printer. So,
right.
Yeah. So this has pretty much dominated like all of my free time for as long as we've had this book going. So.
Yep. That is true. Every day.
Mm-hmm.
Clockwork for $2 says Kamala Faux-Bama. Kamala for Obama.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. James Hayes for £5 says, is it me or did they intentionally give Trump a high camera angle and Kamala a low camera angle? Considering she's short and he's tall, it looks off. I don't think the angle was any different. I mean, obviously the camera was raised to make them look the same height, but I don't think the angle was different, was it? When you say like,
I'm not sure.
when you say, or maybe when you say low angle, what that makes me think is you're saying that the camera's like low pointing up. And for Trump, it would be like above him pointing down. Now it was both angles were direct on, but yeah, they raised the camera to make them look the same height. They always do that, even with guys. They always kind of make them look the same height in the split panel. So Edward Senior for $10 says, "Isn't Harris bragging about Dick Cheney's endorsement kind of like Rachel Zegler bragging about Brie Larson's support for her playing Snow White?" I like that. It's a good comparison. Yeah, that's about the size of it. Amoeba Sheep for 100 knock knocks. Thank you. Says, genuine question. What takes precedent? The peaceful transition of power to people you believe subvert the election or resisting to defend the country from people you honestly think have cheated? I mean, it's kind of like a weird question the way that it's framed because you always have to remember that you as a human are infallible. So just because you believe something doesn't necessarily mean it's true. So even if you honestly believe whatever that means, but you don't have any way of proving it. Like I would say, and this is what I said when we talked about this before, even if you as an individual honestly think that the election was stolen, but you don't really have any way of proving it, I think that maintaining the peaceful transition of power and maintaining the system is far more important than sort of, attempting to do this subversion process, which is basically fucking insane, where you try to throw out, half the country's votes. I think that's not the correct way to handle the situation.
Yeah, you said infallible, and I think you meant fallible, but whatever.
Did I say? I don't even remember saying infallible in that answer, but okay. Did you have a different answer or same answer?
No, of course. Of course. Yeah. We are all fallible, obviously. So
oh right, yeah, we're all fallible.
One of the biggest problems is, I mean, Trump never really. I mean, the perception problem is really the biggest problem over all the election fraud stuff, because he's just not really. He's totally going off of his gut intuition, and at some level, you have to have faith that your president is going to actually look at the real situation, right?
Right.
Remember when they gave Bush such a hard time when he said, "I looked into Putin's eyes and I saw his soul."
Yeah.
It's like, what a fucking moron.
Right, yeah.
Like, I would go more off of what the military intelligence was, right?
Right. Did he say it before or after Putin invaded Georgia?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So
Fate of Morality for $5 says, I hope the comic book is more A-Team reigns supreme than S-Class, if you catch my drift. Wow. Terrible.
I mean, we tried to shoot we tried to make it A-Team and S-Class, yes.
Ace for $5 says, guys, can I send a Twitter DM showing late-term abortions are both rare and done mainly for medical reasons? Sure. Of course. You don't have to ask. You can just send a DM, whether they're answered or not. Lethal Strain, thank you for the $5. Says, Trump saying, I almost got her a MAGA hat was hilarious. It was a good line. That was one of Trump's good lines. Bob the Hun for $5 says, if this was in a movie, people would say journalists are straw man and portrayed unfairly, felt like a Daily Wire movie. It was that bad. That's not untrue. That is not untrue. There was something about, apparently, I didn't know this. Apparently, like, some top person or maybe the top person at like ABC is like supposedly Kamala's friend or something. So people were suggesting that somehow not somehow, but that she was given the answers beforehand, which I'm skeptical of because I don't think her answers were good enough to imply she got the answers beforehand. And they didn't really ask any questions that were like curveballs or something. Like they were all like questions you would essentially expect to be asked in the debate. So Sade Ray for 5 SGD says Trump's lies over the election outweighs everything else, even if not disqualifying, makes him vastly more dishonest than anything Kamala said or did. Yeah, I don't I think I agree with that. And I think that's kind of Trump's big problem with overcoming that is that he can't really overcome that. And he always gets bogged down in it. He can't like kind of move past that really. So Dan Schneider for $10 says, isn't who's lying for voters to decide? If Trump is lying, why can't Kamala call him out? Isn't that her job? Trump argues something is happening and Kamala argues it's not, like maybe a debate. Yeah, it's weird. I don't know if I agree that it's like, well, I don't, I think it's very difficult. And to the point that I don't even know if they should do it for moderators to handle that situation because there've been a few debates in the past where the moderators, there's one, do you remember who it was? There's some debate in my lifetime where the moderators are like, we're going to fact check everything. And it was like a complete shit show because they fact check something and then they just get into a big fight with the candidate. And then the debate basically pauses because they're debating with the candidate about whether the fact check is correct or not. I think that's kind of the problem. That and plus it will always be perceived as unfair unless they're like, quote, fact checking both sides like to the same amount. So I don't really have a problem with journalists fact checking the candidates. Now, I have a problem with the fact that it seems like it's done very not correctly, but I don't know if it really works in these sort of debate settings for the moderators to do it.
There is a big meme on the left that we have to stop the spread of disinformation. Like, otherwise the world is going to fall apart. So they feel obligated to do the fact checking during the moderation.
It just doesn't work. I understand in theory, just I don't think.
No, I completely agree with you. I
Right.
completely agree with you. But this is like their bugaboo.
Right.
They don't seem to understand that there's like a lot of things that they perceive as factually correct that are literally disinformation.
Well, that's the issue is that in theory, I would love for there to be some sort of, 1,000 IQ impartial fact checker to prevent the spread of disinformation. Because I agree, the amount of disinformation that's spread currently is like astronomical.
Yeah, through channels like so-called respected channels.
Right. And it's like, but I just don't trust any of our sources, both mainstream or independent media, to do that appropriately. So
yeah, I agree.
Ostracy for $5 says the reason the policy argument won't work on Trump is that he can fall back on his first term. Kamala's trying to distance herself from her VP term. Yeah, and that's why I think Trump missed a really big opportunity because even though, Kamala could fire back about, well, what are your policies? He doesn't have one. He could always do that. He could always fall back on his first term and just say, people saw what I was like as president. They loved it. The economy was great. We didn't have any wars or whatever he wants to say, right? You could just throw that out there. So it was just a huge missed opportunity for him.
Will it work though?
I think
his tax cut is sunsetting. I mean, he should be playing that up. He should have been saying that right and left. He should say, listen, I gave you a tax cut in 2017. You all saw it. You all felt it. That tax cut expires in 2025. Tick tock, tick tock. Like, you think Kamala Harris is going to renew your tax cut? No.
Well, but if he brings it up, then she brings up,
they predominantly went to the rich. People are not going to care.
Because I think the sunsetting, it only sunset for the non-rich people. I think the rich people tax cut exists.
Yeah, exactly. It's not going to sunset for the rich.
Right. So I don't know if that's a good line from bring up.
You're totally right. I mean,
yeah.
It does look shitty if she says, well, how come it doesn't sunset for the rich?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, okay.
What? He completely screwed himself.
He did.
Oh my God.
He did, yeah.
Because look, that would be a devastating argument if if he didn't skew it so it didn't sunset for the rich.
Yep.
Look. It's what you get. That's what you get for not being fair. I still would like my tax cut back.
There you go. When we all. J-Back, our second fire, thanks so much for the $20. Says, when I was homeless, it was mostly my fault. That's not the case for everyone, but many people choose homelessness. Just look at all the failed free housing in many blue cities. You can lead a horse to water and all that. Very true. I can only show you the door.
Totally agree.
Yeah. A Lethal Strain for $2 says Adam wants druggy Hotel California. LOL.
True. Look, we're just trying to solve problems.
Right. Chewbacca's Lover for $5 says leftist empathy is greatly exaggerated. They have it for violent felons and terrorists, not so much law-abiding citizens who they disagree with. I don't know if it's exaggerated. It's just the left and the right's empathy. I guess it's exaggerated in terms of people who don't think of the rights having empathy, but they do. It's just shifted in different directions. So like the left has empathy since the left believes, again, this is why my definition of left and right is objectively correct. And you're wrong if you say otherwise, Adam. Or
Look,
anyone else. Okay.
I want to write down, because you told me one time in a way that I thought, okay, well, this makes sense. And it's not
Yes.
really, it doesn't have to do with inside or outside spatially. It has to do with inside, outside conceptually.
Yes.
And I never took good notes. So I don't really remember what it was.
Well, maybe you'll get when I talk about in this context. So like the left, since the left believes that the system we live in, it causes our problems. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
When they look at people who are causing problems within that system, like criminals, drug addicts, things of that nature, they're more empathetic towards them because they feel like their problems must exist because they're within a failing system.
Okay.
But then the right has the opposite. Since they view the system as generally working, and they look at the people like the drug addicts, homeless people as subverting the system, the good system, they don't have empathy for them. They have empathy for the people that are like have a job and are, in the system and doing the quote right thing within the system's desires and inherent makeup.
Okay. So the right believes the system is working. Never mind the fact that everyone on the right now is calling themselves anti-establishment.
This is a very unique situation. I know. Don't contextualize it from that. The right wants to believe that there is an inherent system that works for society, and that if you're like homeless or a criminal or something, it's because you failed. The system didn't fail you. You failed to live up to the world. You failed to live up to the system.
So the left thinks the system is not working and the solutions for that system come from within.
No, the left thinks the solutions come from outside the system.
Okay, system is not working. Solutions come from outside. And the right thinks the system is working.
Yes, or the system/traditions work. And so the only thing that makes it not work is something outside the system, outside the tradition, comes in and like subverts it or denigrates it or degenerates it.
And those outside forces could be inside the country spatially, but the ideas are outside the system.
Exactly. Okay. Exactly.
Okay, I took some notes.
Right. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah. So I put inside, outside conceptually, causing problems within the system. The right system is working, outside forces conceptually can break it, and the leftist system is not working. Solutions come from outside to fix it.
Right. It's just change versus tradition in a very general sense.
Okay.
So, but that's why I think the left has empathy for like criminals, people like quote breaking the system, and the right has more empathy for people that are like living within the bounds of the system, and that gets mischaracterized by the left and by other people as like the left has more empathy. It's like, well, it's not they have more empathy; they just have empathy for different groups of people.
Yeah, their tribe.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if they view the criminals as their tribe. They just view them as victims, right? They view the criminals as the victims, and the people on the right view the law-abiding citizen as the victim.
Right. Yes, exactly.
Okay. Let's see. Oh, Electro for $10 says, guys, I need you to go to TYT and clip Anna saying Trump bad, because that clip is awesome. If you want to make it easier, it's in Actual Justice's new video. Also, S-Class is best class.
Cool. I'll have to watch.
We'll check it out.
Yeah. I've been watching Young Turks every day, and I think I might have been it does seem like Jank is really trying to distance himself from the far left crazies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which I do think. I think Jank reflexively dips into the Republican stereotype that Republicans are greedy racists.
Right.
Like he'll go on a tirade where he'll say, you know, the reason why they're against immigration is because they don't like brown people. It's just like,
Right.
okay, that's just a giant straw man. And but I do think at the same time he is trying to call out the people on the left. But it's funny because he's calling the people out on the left that are doing the same thing as like what the example that I just gave for him, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's a mixed bag. It really is. But I think Anna is having an effect, and I think Jank is, I know, I would frame it as progress, but that sounds completely condescending as fuck. Yeah. There's just something wrong about referring to people that way. So, but whatever.
Zero for $5 says,
yeah, go ahead.
Zero for $5 says, have you guys considered covering the new Futurama episodes on your second channel? I really enjoyed the latest episode.
Look, I would love to actually. I'm a huge Futurama fan, so.
What is it on? I haven't seen any of the new episodes.
I saw they tried to do a reboot a long time ago, and I was like, oh my God, they must have completely different writers because all of these are terrible.
Mm-hmm.
They really went kind of in the Family Guy direction where it's just oh so random, which I really don't like that kind of comedy.
Well, it doesn't work with something pre-established like Futurama.
Right.
So it's on Hulu, it looks like. Okay, I'll check it out. Double Jab for 7 months says, it's crazy that we haven't learned by now that the left's tactic is to just piss off the right until they go crazy and get physical. They'll never stop.
Well, there is a bit of that.
Well, I think there's definitely in the Kamala campaign a very strong intentionality behind it. Before that, I don't know if it was intentional, if it was just like an incidental thing. MA566 for $2 says, I want to ride bears with Putin. There you go. Anyways.
Is that good? All right.
That's
Look,
it.
I can't stream tomorrow, so we're streaming on Sunday.
Yep. So thank you guys so much for your incredibly generous donations. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you all Sunday. If you have any good videos for us to cover on Sunday, make sure to send them to us on Twitter, and we'll check them out.
Yep. And then, as always, I read all the comments, so.
Later.